So thank you. I don't know if anyone's actually here from the libraries at this point, but we appreciate their thoughtfulness. Thank you.
Tucker Whitman.
Here.
Andy Dennison.
Present.
Ben Vitale.
Present.
Grant Kyle.
Here.
Paul Pickney.
Here.
Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Present.
Joe DeForest.
Present.
Terry Baxter.
Aye.
Joseph Bennett.
Here.
Frank Reginelli.
Here.
Patrick Mahonick.
Here.
Timothy Lattimore.
Here.
Michael Didio.
Here.
Ryan Fold is excused. Keith Batman.
Present. So if we could rise for the pledge and then for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, at 6:04, I would like to open the public hearing on the 2018 Cayuga County budget. We will entertain people who wish to speak on the budget throughout the meeting. So this is not your only opportunity, but if there's someone who would like to speak right now, please make yourself known. Okay, thank you.
Our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Clyde Fellows, father-in-law of Terry Baxter, and beloved father of Wendy Baxter.
Yeah, you want me to? Do we have a couple of proclamations? The first, can I ask Mr. Baxter to come forward? And also, I believe we have some members of the Sempronius Fire Department, if they could come up. Yeah, I know, it's a surprise.
Whereas in our democratic society, it is an important civic responsibility and a great honor for any government body to grant public recognition, admiration, and gratitude to these very citizens who have helped to build this community and influence the future of its citizens. And whereas the Cayuga County Office of Emergency Services has been working diligently to enhance Cayuga County's technical rescue response capabilities and leverages the volunteer fire service in Cayuga County as a force multiplier to build out these capabilities. And whereas the Cayuga County Office of Emergency Services has had a very challenging year in finding the time to design and build out the trench response trailer kept getting moved to the bottom of the department's priorities. And whereas, despite a flood disaster in their own community this past July that taxed the Sempronius Fire Department and the Sempronius community, the Sempronius Fire Department was quick to answer the call for assistance, simply stating, "Drop it off, we'll get it done for you." And whereas within 3 weeks they had accomplished just that, a fully capable response trailer to add to our technical rescue response fleet. And whereas Sempronius Volunteer Fire Department is always among the first to offer their services and is vital to our community, exemplifying the spirit of our volunteer fire departments, now therefore be it resolved that I, Terry Baxter, and Keith Batman, Chairman of the Cayuga County Legislature, and fellow legislators do hereby proclaim our gratitude and urge the residents of our county to join with us in honoring Sempronius Volunteer Fire Department, November 28, 2017. One of you guys in charge?
We also have a plaque, the appreciation, the continuing support from the Office of Emergency Services. So, thank you all.
Dress up nice and show up.
Thanks again, guys.
Just stay here for the rest of the meeting.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Our second, excuse me, our second proclamation for the night is for Chapel House. I think we have several people, Tim, and if you all want to come forward. So, whereas Chapel House opened in the fall of 2007 as a nonprofit corporation with a mission to provide homeless individuals with emergency shelter and the tools for self-sufficiency in a safe and respectful manner. And whereas relying on the support of dedicated volunteers, Chapel House positions itself to be the leader in providing solutions to homelessness in Cayuga County through emergency shelter, long-term support, and collaboration with other agencies. And whereas Chapel House's 16-bed transitional housing program provides shelter for homeless men and women, assisting them with a range of programs to help them move from homelessness to permanent housing and to build their skills in employment, self-sufficiency, personal growth, social responsibility, and financial management. And whereas Chapel House celebrates its 10th anniversary this year, now therefore be it resolved that I, Keith Batman, Chairman of the Cayuga County Legislature, and fellow legislators, do hereby proclaim our gratitude and urge the residents of our county to join us with recognizing Chapel House for 10 years of service.
Okay, good evening. Timothy Donovan, and I am a member of Chapel House Board of Directors. Mr. Chairman, members of the Cayuga County Legislature, attending guests, as Chapel House Board member and Anniversary Planning Committee Chair, I come before you tonight to personally invite you to the Chapel House 10-year anniversary celebration on December 2nd between 4 and 9 p.m. at the Knights of Columbus here in Auburn. An eat-in or take-out pasta dinner will be catered by Chow Cucina Crew. Musical entertainment will be provided by Perform for Purpose and DJ Toby Rich. Tickets are $15 and they're available at Chapel House. The mission of Chapel House is to provide homeless individuals with emergency shelter and the tools for self-sufficiency in a safe and respectable manner. For the past 10 years, Chapel House has strived to be a leader in providing solutions for homelessness in Cayuga County through emergency shelter, long-term support, and collaboration with other agencies. Our motto is a hand up, not a handout. 10 years ago, Chapel House first operated out of a gymnasium at the former Holy Family School. Today, Chapel House offers over 4,000 square feet of emergency housing for men and annually serves 300 individuals. Chapel House is supported by numerous volunteers and generous donors. On behalf of Chapel House, I hope you will consider attending our anniversary event on December 2nd. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I again offer, is there anyone who would like to speak or address any issues on the budget? In that case, are there any members of the community that wish to be heard on any other issue?
Okay, minutes for approval, October 24th, 2017, and November 7th, 2017.
Move them. Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Dr. Durant.
Mr. Chairman, good evening.
First, just want to recognize one of our trustees, Melissa Carnicelli, with me here this evening. Thank you for coming. Just a few updates over the last couple of weeks. I think I mentioned in the October meeting we were about to have our fall open houses. We had one open house at the Auburn campus and one at our Fulton campus. Attendance was strong, comparable to last year, essentially the same. And as we're looking ahead towards our applications for our next year's recruiting class, our applications continue to be flat and slightly up to where they were a year ago, where we were up all last year in enrollment. Just as we follow up through our census date, this fall, as I mentioned earlier, we anticipated to exceed our fall targeted enrollment goals. We have to the tune of about 2%. What it represents, and I know I did some methodology breakdown before, and I'll spare you of that, but this fall we have seen a dramatic increase in part-time students, primarily due to our partnerships in the K-12. Recently I looked at the data, and we're serving nearly 500 more students this fall than what we did last year. And that really represents a significant growth in our K-12 partnerships, not only here in Cayuga County, but one program in particular that we launched this fall that was new was an online-only program for high school students in Oswego County in our partnership with City BOCES. And that enrollment opportunity resulted in a significant increase. And so what we've been able to use that example internally and with our trustees, and I'll use it as an example with you tonight, is new programs with a captive audience resulting in increased enrollment is a difference from me being able to tell you for the first time in 5 or 6 years the college is actually up in enrollment from the previous year. And the college is actually on pace to not only meet but exceed its budgeted enrollment for the second year in a row. So, from a trend perspective, we talked all last year. Every month I told you we're up in applications, we're up in a number of registered students and so forth. But those are people, not credit hours, and we never really know until we get to about this time and we look at our locked in for our fall enrollment where we are. And from a college perspective, like I said, we've reached our mark and in essence exceeded our target for our fall. So we continue to now shift our efforts for next fall and a little bit more immediate our efforts for recruitment for our spring enrollment, our spring semester. Over the last month, our trustees, we've been working for several months through our committee structure on reviewing and updating a number of policies to ensure compliance with federal and state regulations. I think this month the trustees approved something like 5 or 6 new policies, primarily in emergency response and preparedness and other areas of compliance. But internally, we've been really looking at kind of our entire catalog, if you will, of our policies and procedures to make sure that they're updated and make sure that people are aware and that we're following them. And it's been probably not the most exciting work internally for the college, but as I'm sure you can appreciate, it's important work because we need to make sure that we know what we're responsible for and ultimately that we're in compliance with what we say we should be doing and ultimately what the regulatory agencies say that we should be doing as well. We're at the early stages of looking ahead for budget development for next year and at the early stages of trying to put together our advocacy kind of campaign at the state level and certainly here as we move forward. And probably in January, I'll be updating you a little bit more specifically on what ultimately the goals are from the state level across from my colleagues from my sister community colleges and across the state. Ultimately our goal will be similar to what we talked about in years past. We certainly want to look at base aid increase and to be able to support our function so we can keep our tuition lower. But I know one of the things that's also important for us at the state level that I'll be talking about in other forums would be, we want to challenge the state legislature and the governor's office to also look at the methodology in general for which we're funded. And maybe it's time to be looking at the models themselves of how we can better have maintenance of effort, perhaps have better sort of predictability of what our funding will be from the state level. Because fundamentally, just like here locally, what we want to be able to do at the state level is to be able, and what we want to be able to do as a college is we want to be able to be responsive, and we want to be able to build programs that support industry and support workforce and support our community. And the best way we can do that is to know where we're going to be financially and how we can be able to be responsive from that. So, working together, hopefully working through an advocacy effort this spring, it won't just be about funding, but it'll also be about a vision for perhaps we could change the way the methodology is constructed for us to support us locally here and help to support you as our sponsor as well as we move forward. So, you know, in the coming weeks, we're going to be focused really on continuing our work for the spring semester. Finals are coming up, and ultimately, I think that we're in good shape really as a college when it comes to hitting our fall benchmarks, and now we're just looking forward for spring. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions? Mr. Lattimore?
Good evening, happy holidays. I see good mayors with you tonight, Ms. Carnicelli. It was in the press the other day, Startup New York. I know that your predecessor, Mr. DeCinque, and Andrew Fish, we had discussed that program. Is that program alive at all in the state? I don't think the governor even talks about it anymore after.
Program exists. I would say it certainly is alive. I mean, I think Cayuga, my predecessor, and I think Sita and Andrew and certainly Tracy and myself, I think there's something unique that happened here in this community that I think is even more powerful, that the college and really the Sita, the Economic Development Agency, is primarily taking the lead when it comes to, you know, meeting with potential agencies and eligible employers and so forth, and providing them with a menu of options that may be best for them to consider when it comes to economic development, and kind of letting the expertise there at CETA and with their leadership to be able to kind of take lead in the conversation. So there have been instances where there have been people that have inquired and looked at it, but ultimately the program is there. What we did recently, what you're referring to in the paper, is we're sort of updating our plan to include additional sites and additional partnerships so that we can do our part as a college and with the Startup New York program to be able to leverage that as a resource to be of appeal for either expanding businesses or potentially new industries to emerge in our county.
I mean, one of the best recruitment things I could see, and I've discussed it with you before, is the IAGT. And any update on that particular program?
No, the IGT, the institute itself, is, again, speaking to you as president of the board and not as president of the college. The IGT board itself continues to do its review of what has available to itself and its future, but its priority right now and its real only project at this point is continuing to maintain the grant that, as a project manager, that's related to the Owasco Lake. No additional update other than that.
Are there any other questions? Dr. Durant?
Thank you, I
Okay,
appreciate the time.
thank you very much. Do we have committee reports or reports from individual legislators? Very well. So, my report, since our last meeting, a special meeting, the done a number of things that I think may be of interest. We've had a series of continued deferred comp meetings, and we actually have a recommendation tonight. It's one of the resolutions of a group to take over the deferred comp program for county employees. I attended an Innovations in Government program in Albany last week, I think, but it was last week. Among the issues discussed there were something I think that we've talked about and is some interest in the county, and that's county-wide shared assessment services. So it's something that we'll be following up on to see if there is interest and see if it's possible. Participated in the Career Day at Union Springs, and we were very well represented. Our Director of Probation was there, as was represented from the Sheriff's Office and several others. All in all, it was, I don't know how many people, I started to count, but it was there must have been 30 or more the careers represented on that day. It was really quite an effort for the school district, and the students seemed to get a lot out of it. So it was good for me, I'm sure it was good for Jay, and it was good for the students. We're meeting with Richard Ball, the Agricultural Commissioner, tomorrow. We, as in the Watershed, the group, Rules and Regulations group, and me, and I think there'll be some other people there to explain and discuss what we're doing collectively with our Watershed Rules and Regulations. So I'll have a report on that at the next meeting. So with that, I'll ask if there are any questions of me. Mr. Bennett.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, back on November 8th, you had a press release there that the county hired a new administrator. I'm a little disappointed that we don't have him sitting up there next to Fred and stuff ready. Any idea when or so?
Yeah, I think that the planned start date is December 18th. Any other questions of me? Mr. Lattimore?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted, you brought up the deferred comp. There was a couple caveats that I wanted to have included in the terminology in regards to the proposal that Barrick made to us. I have some hesitation with that group, but I mean, do we have to give a 5-year contract to these people? I don't, I'd rather have a 1-year contract. I don't
Yeah,
know.
my understanding is we do. It
That's my
has to be
understanding.
5 years by the.
Do we do that with
law.
all our vendors? I mean,
No, for the deferred comp. That's,
It's statutory,
yeah.
that it's a 5-year contract.
now, if the team that we saw, that we interviewed, I want the caveat to be in there that that's the team
Yeah.
that we keep
Right.
through the 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's
I have
right, very good
concerns about
suggestion.
that, but the union wanted to have that contract, or that particular vendor, so I agreed to vote for it, but I have some reservations with that vendor.
Yeah. And is there any reason we can't write in the contract with them that they cannot change the team without our concurrence?
That might be a problem, because then you're requiring that group stay employed for 5 years, and I'm not sure we can do that.
Well, the suggestion's a good one, so why don't we do this? Why don't we explore what we can do,
Yeah.
and whatever we can do legally, we will do, so.
Well, I mean, their big thing was service. If they don't show up to inform our employees about their options, I want to be able to pull back that contract.
Well, that we can do. We can and will have in the contract the specific numbers, all the stuff they talked about in their presentation. I thought you meant some, well, we'll see what we can do in terms of the specific people, too. I think we're all in agreement that that would be ideal, without question.
But I don't remember any contract where it's mandatory that we have a 5-year contract in length.
Well,
1, 3, 5.
I can mention several. We have a mandatory 6-year contract with our county assessor. Let's see, there's a mandatory 2-year contract with our county attorney. These are all statutory requirements. I mean, it's the,
And this is a statutory requirement?
well, this is what our attorney is telling us, yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's statutory?
It's statutory, yes.
How do we change the statutory?
Get the New York State Legislature to change its mind.
Good luck, but things happen maybe, but, okay.
I have reservations about that.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Didio?
If we back up to the 2018 budget, I didn't hear earlier when you asked if there was any questions on the budget.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we're having the opportunity for the public to comment on the budget. We can
Just the
discuss the
public,
budget later
okay.
in the meeting if you wish, though.
All right, when can I ask to add?
We can add, we'll discuss the budget a number of times. At the end of this meeting, you'll have an opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions of me? Okay, thank you. So speaking of the budget, are there any members of the community that wish to comment? Very good, thank you.
Appointments and reappointments. Cayuga County Water Quality Management Agency, WQMA, Rick Nelson, Westlake Road, Auburn. Term serves into the Owasco Watershed Lake Association, submits a new nomination, new appointment.
Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Second? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Can I have a motion to dispense the reading of the communications?
Move it. Second.
Any objections? Passed. Didn't mean to jump down. Okay. Ms. McNabb-Coleman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to present the regular monthly resolutions 1A, 1B. They've been through committee, and I see seek your approval on these.
Okay, any objection to bundling 1A and 1B? Send through committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
I'd like to bundle WM1 through WM8. They've been through committee, and I offer them here for a vote.
Any objection to bundling 1 through 8? Been through committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
WM9 was added today. It's authorizing retroactive salary adjustments and employment conditions for employees formerly represented under NISNA. This was discussed at Ways and Means, and Mr. Russell and Mr. Westfall said that a resolution would be coming, so the resolution has been added today.
So are you making that as a motion?
I'd like to make it a motion.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to present HH1 through HH6 as a bundle. The resolutions have been through committee.
Was HH6, did that go through committee?
HH6, well, maybe we should separate that. We sort of did a straw vote through
Email.
email.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think that's legal, right? Okay, so if we can separate
Okay, so 1
that.
to
So we
5.
we have bundled 1 through 5. Anyone object to that bundle? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
And HH6, which was,
Lead
Yeah.
bank.
Keith, you want to move it?
yes.
Okay, so we have a motion authorizing the creation of a temporary sick leave bank for a health department employee. We have a motion,
Second.
have a second. Mr. Baxter, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Dennison?
Yeah, when this first come, I'm not opposed to this, by the way, but when this first come out, I sent back an email saying, can we just come up with a policy to address this, so we don't have to address this individually each time? And there was other legislators who said, yeah, that's something we should look at, but obviously it's not gone anywheres. I mean, is it possible?
It's possible Mr. Russell and I have been talking about it the last couple of weeks. We'll get something together for you. So you'd rather not see these as a legislative body? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, no, every time something comes up individually, sometimes they're different. You know, this person might need this many days. I mean, can we just come up with one where it doesn't have to every time? I mean, this is a necessity. So they don't happen all the time. So let's have a policy in place that when one of these rare occasion necessities happen, we don't have to go through this. It's there.
We'll continue to look into it. Thank you.
I lost track. Did we vote? Not yet.
Not yet.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Who's Vice Chair Government?
Terry Baxter.
Mr. Baxter, Government, report on government operations, please.
Mr. Chairman, Government Operations has 4 resolutions. They've been through committees. I'd offer them as a bundle unless there's an objection.
Any objection to bundling these? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And Mr. Pinckney.
Mr. Chairman, planning has 2 resolutions before you. Both have been through committees, and I'd like to offer as a bundle and seek approval.
Any objection to bundling these? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baxter,
Mr. Chairman, Public Works has 6 resolutions. They have been through committees. I would offer them as a bundle unless there's an objection.
any objection to bundling these? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Mahonik.
Mr. Chairman, Judicial and Public Safety has 2 resolutions. They've been through committees. I would offer them as a bundle unless anyone objects.
Any objection to bundling these? I'm hearing none, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? They carry, thank you. Okay, are there any members of the community that want to speak on the budget? Okay. So why don't I do this, instead of asking again, if someone wants to speak at any time, just stand up, and I'll recognize them. So, now we have to have the whole public hearing open for how long?
As long as all the people that have spoken.
Okay, so, okay, so keep it open. Keep it up a little bit more, or a little bit longer, but Mr. Didio? Mr. Didio,
Yes.
did you want to make a recommendation on the budget?
Yes, I would, thank you. What I'd like to see is that we move $1 million out of the fund balance into a line for water quality that would cover Owasco Lake and parts of Cayuga Lake, and any other lake that's in our territory, in the watershed.
And what would the parameters be? What would the parameters of that be?
Well, I wanted to sit with Mr. Westfall to see what parameters that I could suggest and not suggest. I didn't come fully prepared for that, but I wanted to get it on the floor.
Okay, okay. Well, we can do that, that does not have to be part of the budget, in terms of, we can do that at any time. So if we're not prepared for the wording, perhaps what we should do is put that through, I don't know, what committee would that best go through? Planning or Health and Human Services? What do you think, Attorney?
Either one, planning.
Either one. So why don't we if you come up with what the general parameters, and let's put it through planning, because we can do that any time. We absolutely can do it. It doesn't have to be part of the budget process.
All right.
Mr. Lattimore.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned that you were going to meet with the agricultural, Mr. Ball. Is that meeting open?
Yes. Yeah, it's a meeting of, well, I think
At
so.
11:30 tomorrow.
No, it's not open.
Right here,
Yeah.
in the chambers.
But is that a public meeting? Kathleen would know. I'm sorry. It's actually her meeting. I'm just attending.
So the Watershed Steering Committee had requested the opportunity to speak with Commissioner Ball, so it was the steering committee members, Chairman Batman, Steve Lynch, who is our facilitator for the steering committee, and Eileen O'Connor, environmental health director. We had requested to be present. I guess when I spoke with the commissioner's office, that's who I informed him would be attending. I can't say that he wouldn't be okay with others. I just simply, that's where I left it.
Okay. So is that technically a public meeting? Because it's not our committee.
It's not a public meeting.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not a public, it's not our committee technically, so I guess it's not a public meeting. I was mistaken. Who wanted to come?
Yes, I
sorry.
appreciate.
Yeah, I would think there's not a problem if you want to come. It's at 11:30, and if it's an issue, I'll take responsibility and tell the commissioner
I mean,
bad on my bad.
I've been thrown out of better places.
Exactly.
Don't worry about if I have to be excused, but.
Exactly.
I mean, in regards to Mr. Didio's $1 million ask, when we had not a little, but we had the rainstorm in Moravia, this board was willing to come up with $1 million to restore some of the damages that incident happened. So I'm not afraid of the $1 million ask. Hopefully, we can do something with it.
Yeah, let's put it through
To
the committee.
multiply it with the state's money.
Yeah, yeah.
Prime the pump.
Okay, great. So, one final, I know what I said before, but I have to do this because I was going to close the public hearing if no one wishes to speak. So one final opportunity, if anyone from the public has anything to say. Okay, in that case, I'm closing the public hearing at 6:37. At this point, the question is, we have a special meeting December 5th in order to consider input from the public. Since there was not any input from the public, the question is do we want to resolve and vote on the budget tonight so that we don't have to have the meeting on December 5th? So I would entertain, if you want to do that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the preliminary budget for
I'd make that
2018 is submitted.
Excuse me.
I'll second.
Okay, with a motion and a second. So is there any final discussion on the budget? Ms. Lattimore?
Mr. Chairman, you had recommended that for fine arts, a $5,000 ask, and I supported that ask.
It was reduced to 3,000 by amendment, but yeah.
So you're happy with that?
That was the will of the body, so I'm happy with the will of the body, yes.
My will is to, to make sure that $1 million goes into that water quality for Wasco Lake and Cayuga Lake and other lakes that need it in our watershed. That we
Yeah.
were gonna do Tuesday.
Yeah, that does not have to be clear, that's not, technically, that's not part of the budget process. I mean, we can consider at the time, that's what we did with the reserves for highway and the reserves for building, but they were separate resolutions, if you remember. We're not voting on those tonight, because it's not,
All right,
You
well,
know,
that-
you-
the reason I'm doing that is doing this is when we need more equipment at a Wasco Lake pump house, we don't have to scurry around for another maybe 200,000 or 250,000, and we will have it in there. Is that correct?
well, it would be, if it's set aside, it would be set aside for whatever purpose the body determines.
Correct, right.
So
I just want to make
I mean,
sure
that
that
would
it's
be,
in there,
I'm not sure if we can we do that?
I'd be happy to meet with Mr. Didio. I
Okay.
can call him tomorrow and set something
right?
up.
Mr. Westfall will call you tomorrow and
I
set
can
something
call you
up.
tomorrow, Mr. Didio, and we can walk through what the next steps are. Would that be
I'll
agreeable?
be here.
What time?
Well, this is 11:30, so maybe I'll come beforehand.
I'll be here.
All right,
Okay, great.
thank you.
Okay. Any other issues? Just, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to go on the record that I will be voting no on the budget because I don't believe that the taxpayers of Cayuga County deserve any kind of a tax increase at all this year, seeing we do have some money in our coffer and stuff. I believe we should at least, if nothing else, hold the line flat.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Whitman?
Was the December 5th date advertised?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
My
So we-
concern would be, is there public planning on coming December 5th, and we're going to pass the budget tonight?
We will put a cancellation notice in.
Right. Yeah, and plus the December...
Have a chance to speak.
Well, to be clear, the December 5th meeting is not a public hearing.
Yeah,
That was
that was-
tonight.
that
Anyone
was
that
tonight.
wanted to speak on the budget would have come tonight, or should have come tonight. The December 5th meeting, like every meeting, would have an opportunity for the public to be heard, but it would not be a public hearing. Mr. Dennison?
Where do we advertise our public for this tonight?
The Cayuga, the community newspaper that's south, right, and the Citizen.
And our own website, I'm assuming, county website.
Yeah, we put the notices up there.
Okay. Do we need to read the resolution? Are you prepared?
Or pass it around.
Okay. So do we have that?
I do have more.
We have a motion. So it'd be what?
Motion from the floor.
We have Then we have
We'll have two more.
Do you want them passed out? If she has a copy.
Well, I'll just read it.
Okay.
Have Fred read it, and if anyone has questions. So this is the formal resolution, which was prepared for later, but,
So the resolution is entitled Adopting the Cayuga County Budget for 2018. Whereas a budget officer of the County of Cayuga, in compliance with County Law Section 354, has prepared and filed with the clerk of the Cayuga County Legislature a tentative 2018 budget. And whereas pursuant to County Law Section 357, the Ways and Means Committee of this county legislature, being the committee designated to review the tentative budget, has examined the 2018 tentative budget and recommended proposed changes, alterations, or revisions. And whereas the Cayuga County Legislature, by resolution number 345-17, on November 16th, 2017, made changes, alterations, or revisions to the tentative 2018 budget.
And whereas the provisions of County Law, Section 358, having been complied with by the Cayuga County Legislature, and pursuant to County Law, Section 359, a public hearing was held on November 28, 2017, after advertisement as required by law. Now therefore be resolved that the preliminary 2018 budget as heretofore amended be and hereby is adopted by this legislature as the budget for the year 2018.
Very good. So we've had a motion second. If we could have a roll call vote?
Tucker Whitman?
No.
Andy Dennison?
No.
Ben Vitale?
Yes.
Grant Kyle?
Yes.
Paul Pickney?
Yes.
Aileen McNabb Coleman?
Yes.
Joseph DeForest?
Yes.
Terry Baxter?
Aye.
Joseph Bennett?
No.
Frank Reginelli?
Yes.
Patrick Mahonik?
Yes.
Timothy Lattimore?
Yes.
Michael Didio?
No.
Ryan Foley's excused. Keith Batman?
Yes.
Passed.
Passed.
Very good, thank you. So I'm not certain if the, do we need an executive session?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd make a motion for an executive session.
Second.
okay. And the purpose is the employment of a particular person?
Negotiations, personnel?
Okay. So we have a motion for executive session regarding to the negotiation personnel.
Mr. Chairman, can we invite the newly electeds in?
Yes.
Executive session?
Yes. So, we didn't vote on that, though. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're in executive session. If you could stay, Mr. Westbrook.